Carrie. It's been a
It's
while.
one of those days.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Do tell. I mean, we're live. We're here to keep it real and hopefully create high vibes, but sometimes you got to go through the valleys to get to the peaks. So,
Yep. It's all part of the game.
facts. Well, anyway, guys, we are late because me and Restream are having fun times, or rather, not so much because it keeps changing on me. Yeah, I'm putting that out there, Restream. But we're here, and I'm super excited because I purposefully wore blue because I always wear skulls in black. And I'm like, I bet you Drew's going to wear blue and I'm going to wear blue. And see, we're matching.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Nicely
what's
done.
going on in your world? It's been at
Couple
this
weeks.
yeah.
Yeah, so I've been busy.
I could tell.
The students came back last week, and man, are they fired up. Are they fired up. And these are university students. For people who don't know, I drive a pedicab and with a trailer around the University of Michigan and give mostly students rides, lots of adults too. Football games are a big thing for us. But when the students come back, I can usually get a pretty good feel for where the energy is pretty quickly. And these guys are fired up. They're ready to have some serious fun this year. They're feeling this energy that's been going on, and most of them aren't aware of it right now, but I'll tell you what, they're open to learning more about it. It was a fun week, welcome week last week, for sure.
Yeah, and you were busy because I know that we talked and you wanted to take time to like decompress and nurture yourself, which I love. It's so important because even though you and I, what we do, we show up and love and are super excited and want to do what we do, it's still, right? We're humans and it takes a toll.
Yeah, Monday was a day. On Sunday, I was doing some stuff and just kind of maintenance stuff with the cab and the trailer. And I went out for a little while and I just got the impulse. You know what? I'm done. Tomorrow, I'm doing absolutely nothing. And I did exactly that. Nothing.
Yeah.
Now, for most people, it'd be nothing. I did a lot of meditation and I did a lot of inner work. But for me, that's not work. That's play. So, just regenerating, rejuvenating, getting the energy back up high and getting ready for the rest of the week. So I literally did nothing. I had a lot of things I could do. I had a lot of stuff I could do. I just said, no, I'm not doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm back. I'm ready to go. Let's get this week going.
Well, it's interesting because I ran into, and I shared this in my newsletter yesterday, which typically goes out Monday, but I, like you, I worked a lot while traveling from New York City to Connecticut, but on Sunday I worked extensively with somebody, and I mean, honored, super privileged, really grateful this person let me in their space to support them and stuff. But I did not listen to the calls that I needed to take moments because I had this you got to just get it done. You're only in New York for one more day. And as a result, I was completely depleted at the end of the day, get lost in Harlem. And I loved it because just like you said earlier, like contrast, right? I needed that reminder to be like, oh yeah, Carrie, when you're being called to stop for a minute, you need to, because otherwise you're gonna crash and burn.
Right, exactly. And those are all things you got to listen to, right? They're all part of the process. They're all part of it,
Yeah, and that's the thing is typically I do, and yeah, I think all of us can be subject to being in a space where it's like, oh, you really want to support somebody, or you have such a limited time and you convince yourself that you have to keep going. And so I welcomed the reminder to really always nurture myself, because that is where and when I can show up and be of service to other people in a meaningful way.
Yeah, of course. Like I always say to people, look, you can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. You have to
Yes.
be well first. And it wasn't that I was unwell. I just was like, okay, that was enough work for
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's fun work. I love what I do whether it's with the trailer or energy or whatever. But it was long hours,
Yeah.
and I mean, at some point you just have to go, okay, time for me, take care of myself.
And I mean, even that within itself is a beautiful discipline, right? To be able to recognize that and to listen, which I think too, I mean, everybody knows when they need to pause. I truly believe that we are all have the discernment or the ability to be like, okay, it really is time to pause. And yet, so often we convince ourselves just one more minute, one more five, one
Yeah,
more hour. And then we wonder why we live in a society of burnout.
right. One more task. Oh, I can just get this done. Oh, well, then I can get this done. And, so I mean, I'm done pushing against, right? So that's pushing against. When it's not fun anymore, that's why people know it, right? When I'm doing something and it's not fun, that means you're pushing through something. Take time, go inside, breaths, whatever your modality is, and separate yourself from it. Years ago I used to push. Like most people, I would push through stuff, and eventually I realized, you know what? I'm just not that important. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to do this. I don't have to be here doing this. Um, if it's not fun, I don't do it. And
Yeah.
so that was sort of when that crept in. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. And the minute it's not fun, that's the time to go, okay, stop, take a
Yeah.
breath, go inside, do your own work.
And sometimes it's not fun just for the minute, like, right? You just need to re-energize. And other times it's no longer fun and you really do need to step away. And I like you, I operate generally from a place of, if it's not joyful, I won't do it, and I'm asked a lot, like often, to support in certain ways in business or other um things that are no longer of any interest in me. And so I easily say no, because I know that the minute I step into that, it's not going to be enjoyable and I'm going to bring my state down. And because I know the power of our mind and how we create, I won't allow myself to put myself in a position to not have a good time in this life. Like, right. And I actually met with somebody yesterday. In fact, I think I definitely put you in touch with him. He's awesome, super brilliant. But we were talking about the fact, and I think this happens in, when people are working through higher levels of consciousness, we absorb, we take in all this information. But what that does is it continuously gets our wheels turning to the point where we spiral into lower vibrations, because we already know, we discern, but we try to put words to what can't have words. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and that actually, in my own experience, I learned uh rather quickly that, absorbing and having the information, sure, whatever, but if I start to ruminate on it, it takes away just this joy. It then becomes work, and it brings me down, rather than being what it is, and keeping me in a state of higher consciousness.
Yeah, a lot of times, from my experiences, that happens because we try to anticipate or think or think to ourselves, well, this is the way it's supposed to happen, right? Sort of planning it out, right? Whereas you can't even think big enough to understand how things can unfold. So a lot of times that goes back to people just not letting go and just allowing it to happen, staying in that I'm in my allowing mode, right? I'm just going to watch it unfold. I'm going to go easy with it and see what happens as it comes up and recognize where things are when they occur. So again, it comes back to building your awareness muscle, but so many people don't operate in that allowing. They try to push their thoughts the way it's supposed to happen. I'm designing it this way, where most of the big breakthroughs in history of inventions, etc., happened when people were not doing that.
By chance, yeah.
Yeah,
Penicillin is the first one that comes to my mind, right? Because the guy
right.
went away on vacation and came back to the petri dish with mold.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
there's so many of them. Post-it notes. They weren't trying to create a post-it note. They were trying to create a permanent glue.
I didn't know that story.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that this is kind of where we went today, because I was just talking to a client who asked me for support with something. I'm happy to support them, but their reason was because they keep being triggered by this experience and they just want to push it aside. I said, well, you can't do that, because you're going to continue to have this experience if you don't allow yourself to move through it, to honor it, to release it. And really, just for example, right? I knew I pushed myself too far. I got lost in Harlem. Instead of sitting here, oh well, I don't want to like deal with it. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's just move through this lesson, enjoy the ride, feel the feelings, and just keep it going. And as a result, I felt more empowered and more joyful than if I like just tried to push it aside, because it would keep presenting itself for me to learn, or at least recognize.
Yeah, and so that's that's more power to you, because you had the awareness to go, wait a minute, right? And most people don't do that. I
Yeah.
mean, but it, again, as we talk about a lot, that takes practice, and it takes a playful practice. Like it's not a serious practice; it's a playful practice. But the more playful you get with it, and the more practice you get at it, the more you start catching those things.
Yeah.
And you have better days, or better moments is a better way to put it, because you could go, wait a minute, okay, so I'm lost. Okay, well, not really lost. I'm just here, and I can figure out my way back.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the other brilliant thing about it is, as a result of that, I was able to have a beautiful conversation with a gentleman from Nigeria that I wouldn't have otherwise had. But it's also because rather than going into stress mode or like judgment, I went back to that. And I think that's a bigger piece is, yes, it's a practice of being aware, but I also find that the bigger practice for me in my healing journey, and not so much now, but it's non-judgment, choosing to recognize it and then not judging it, is, oh, Carrie, you know better. How dare you?
Yeah.
You did it right. Like this.
Right. Exactly. You always do this to yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. And then getting stuck in that rabbit hole of just, ugh.
Yeah. That happens a lot, right? Everybody will, not everybody, a lot of people. I used to do it myself. You know better than this. You always do this to yourself. Yeah, that's the monkey mind, right? It just keeps going.
And even to add on to that, and this is something I just shared with my client as well. When we say that, we're feeding our subconscious that belief, because words have power. So every time I'd be like, I'm literally pushing that belief into my psyche instead of laughing and being like, got it. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. So important. Yeah. So you talked about the students being amped up and ready. So I guess, for clarity's sake, from myself, is it that they're excited about classes, or they're feeling more energetic about what you're teaching them in your cab rides, or can you elaborate on that more?
Well, I've talked about it a lot. In the last few years, in particular, consciousness has been expanding. There has been a huge, this year has already been, and it will continue to be, an enormous leap in energy fields. We've had the eclipse. We've had Schumann resonance going off the charts, which influences everybody, by the way, because that's the Earth energy.
Yeah.
We've had Lionsgate. Today is another big energy day, 8/28/8. I mean, there's a lot of eights in there. So the energy has been ramping up, which these kids 20, 19 to 20, 18 to 19 to 20, 22, 23, whatever, are so close to being where they came from in terms of where we all came from. When we came into this world, we were just pure energy, right? We were just operating at love. We're just learning. We're just, we're a giant sponge, and we're just operating on this really high vibrational energy. And these guys are so close to it and haven't had enough contrast for the most part in their life to really have allowed themselves to be separated from, like most people do by the time they're about 30, right? So they're picking up on that, whether they know it or not, because it's influencing everybody. You notice it a lot with the adults who don't know about this, and they are operating more in separation from that energy. Typically, they're operating, more and more around guilt, shame, all the things that separate you from operating at all the emotions that separate you from operating at your higher levels of consciousness, if you will. These guys are tuned into it, and more so, like, I've watched it every year. Last year was a little higher. This year was drastically higher. I mean, they were all having so much fun. We had way less incidences, whether you want to call them, confrontations or whatever you want to refer to them as. There was just more flowing through them. It was, every driver noticed it. Every one of us we got done at the end of the day. It's like, that day was pretty amazing. These are long days. And everyone's going, yeah, these guys are fired up, man. They're in good mood. That didn't happen last year. It wasn't as smooth last year. This year, it's just smoothly going along. And now, once, I've reconnected with some of my previous groups, we've had deeper conversations about energy and this and that, and they are more open than they ever were last year. Yeah. So that's what I'm referring to. It's just, it's going to be a really fun year. I can just tell.
Yeah. And I think, it's important for the audience to understand, I think in both of our works, we're planting seeds. So what germinated, like what you planted last year in some of these students kind of germinated over time. And as they're coming back, because now maybe they haven't implemented all things or whatever, they've achieved experiences that can help them say, okay, maybe if I tap into a little bit more, I'll even experience more. And that's why we do this show too, is that we want to encourage people. Look, Drew and I are not suggesting you take anything that we say at face value, but we certainly encourage you, and for me, implore you to put some of the things we discuss into practice, because in doing so, what you experience is far greater than anything Drew and I can ever put into words.
Yeah, exactly. Words cannot teach this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just impossible. We can give you the concepts. We can give you the ideas. We can, have you go, oh, that kind of makes sense. But until you experience it, you don't know it, which is why I built that energy. In fact, I'm about to do a video on this very subject, Carrie, because that's why I built that trailer. So last year, I drove those kids around. Most of them didn't even know, it was an activation trailer. They just knew they had a lot of fun in it. But to your point, the more they were in that, the better they felt. Because once you put yourself into an environment that's a high vibration environment, whether it's going to, a vortex in Sedona or whatever it is, when you go in there, into that environment, your body calibrates to that frequency. Your body automatically raises its frequency. So even if they didn't know what it was, a lot of them I had conversations with, but they still didn't really know it, right? But when they get back into it, they go, oh, I remember this. and I've been feeling so good all summer. And since this, yeah, this is great. This is great. So since words don't teach it, you and I have different modalities of having people have the experience. But I've built a trailer, for example. I'm going to give away a 5-minute little snippet of my system so people can get a feel for it and actually get into what that is. You walk people through exercises. I do the same thing. I work with a pendulum. There's lots of different ways for us to give people that experience. And when they have the experience, now we've got their attention. So that's what we both encourage. Look, just take the time to try to have an experience for yourself, because once you know what it feels like to operate in a higher state of consciousness more consistently, then you'll want more of it. And there are lots and lots of easy ways to do that.
Yeah, it's something that came to me as I'm listening to you, because you're absolutely right. Everybody has those moments of like, I guess the best way to describe it without doing it justice is euphoria. Like true, like,
yeah, I'm
right?
having so much fun. I can't even imagine doing anything else. That's it.
But what came to mind, right, is in a world that has, like, we're literally programmed to think that suffering is the norm. And then, I guess my question, because I bump into this a lot, and it's constant work that I have to do with my clients, is how do you get your clients to recognize they're worthy of sitting in that state all the time? Because most people, like James, Gil, whatever, they have that experience, but then they immediately are like, oh, I'm a piece of crap. I just cussed out my mom yesterday. I don't deserve to feel good, right? And then they immediately, all of that beautiful, wonderful, joyful energy gets brought down. They just neutralize it because then they're thinking that they're unworthy of it.
Yeah, and that's always sort of the challenge. What I try to teach people is that they have the ability to tune themselves to those frequencies before they start their day, which is going to allow them to bring more and more and more of them with practice.
Yeah.
So in the end, when we're talking about energy, two opposing energies cannot exist in the same time space reality. That's too much push pull, right? So, or it creates neutrality, whatever. But what I do, people ask me all the time, what do you do when you're having a bad day? Right? And I say, well, I don't have bad days. And they say, what do you mean everyone has bad days? And I say, well, listen, I'm not saying I've never had them. I say I don't have them now because I don't allow them.
Yeah.
And right? So what I mean by that is built the awareness muscle to know where I want to operate most consistently around love, appreciation, joy, etc., focus, clarity, the feel good emotions. And when something comes up that I recognize is not a feel good emotion, like I just did for Sunday night, and I just went, Monday, I'm done. I immediately go, wait a minute, if that's something I don't want to feel, what is it I do want to feel? And I shift my focus.
Yep.
Right. So just shift the focus over to what it is I do want to feel. And that energy over here has to fade away. Is it easy? No.
Not in the beginning.
No. Yeah. I mean, it takes practice.
And even now, for me, I still have those moments but it's way less. And it's much quicker to just, nope. And yeah, it really is. And I agree with you. I don't have bad days. And it's interesting because I was talking to a client earlier today, and I was telling him, I remember looking at people like you and me, and I despised us.
Yeah.
It's like, I Like, because I'm sitting here, I'm drinking my 2 bottles of wine, which means I'm lethargic and I'm miserable the next day, and I'm going to a job I hate, and then I see Joe Schmo jump on, and they're like, I don't have bad days, and I'm like, they full of crap. They full of crap. But now I'm like, no, that's really, really true. It really is. But again, here's what I would encourage our audience to consider. Nothing worth having is a quick fix. Nothing. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't believe that. Do I think you can get to a place where Drew is and I am, where like it's boom, like you can get there quickly? Yeah, but it took us both a lot of patience, consistency, effort, and the willingness to keep coming back to it when we didn't get the results we wanted. And so I would encourage people, if you find yourself interested, understand that it does take effort. It's possible, but it takes effort. And that's why people like Drew and myself and Yanko and Gales and all the people out there in the world doing this work is helpful to work with, whomever you work with, because when you do feel like your efforts are futile or you're not getting anywhere, you have a guide to say, I get it, been where you are, but hold steady, because the reward is on the other side of that constant awareness and work and choosing a different feeling.
Yeah, and that's a good reason to hire a coach, because there's a lot of times people have things that happen, but they immediately go to, well, this worked out pretty good. This was good. This was good. And then this happened and it was bad. So, well, how many of this, it was good, it was good, it was good, have you had before?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And they go, well, not many. So, well, recognize that. That's a big jump. You haven't had that happen before. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, just those little steps. The best athletes in the world, let's just go back to the Olympics, right? Some of the biggest records, long-standing records, the best athletes in the world are at the Olympics. They don't just have one coach. They have 2, 3, 4 coaches, because there's different aspects of what makes these athletes elite. They have the innate ability, right? They have the innate ability, but what separates them is mindset, number one. Ask anybody in any sport what separates a good athlete from an elite athlete. Mindset, right?
Yep.
But it's not just that. It's everything else. It's form. It's recognizing this, recognizing that. This little tweak here. Golf is a great example of that. Just move the hand this way a little bit, right? So that's why a good coach is very helpful in life, because we can recognize things that you don't pick up on, and we can emphasize that, where your whole brain body connection starts recognizing, hey, yeah, that really hasn't happened much before, so I'm making progress.
Yeah.
And that shifts it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a huge, like, everybody's like, Carrie, stop telling me to celebrate myself. I'm like, no. I mean, I'm the person who will jump into their phone and like do a really weird video to celebrate them, because it is that important to recognize you are making progress. It may feel insignificant, but even if you catch yourself having a negative thought once in a whole week, that's one thought you caught that you didn't catch previous to your thought. And so that's why I tell people, we're so focused on the staircase, getting to the 12th step, 50th step, instead of being like, oh dang, I just moved an inch, a half an inch. I'll give you a really good example of my own life. For whatever reason, well, actually, I know I hurt myself doing box jumps years ago. And so it's something that I've always wanted to conquer. But every time I look at this box, I'm like, I stare at it. So I'm with Nana and I'm in a mesocycle and I'm like, I gotta do this box jump and I don't let fear stop me. So I'm staring at it and I'm jumping, but I don't get up and I jump and I don't get up and I don't get, and finally I jump up and it's 6 inches, right? I'm like, I was so damn happy. I can jump more than 6 inches, but it's not the point. The point is I was able to jump the 6 inches to prove to myself, well, if you can jump 6 inches, of course you can jump 8. And it's just building that. But if I just was like, nope, I got to focus on that 8 inch, at 12 inch, those 24-inch blocks, I would never have got back to box jumping.
Right. And, I used to teach weightlifting. So when the students came in, and it was a course at a local community college where the students signed up to learn how to weightlift. And when they first came in, do you think I put them through everything that they're going to end up doing on the first or second or third day? No, I didn't start out with big weights. I started out with light weights and form, right?
Yep, form.
And I don't want them, going home or waking up the next day going, I'm never going back to the gym again. Because that's exactly what I could have done, but I didn't do that.
And people do that too, by the way. And on the flip side, I've had, people I've worked with in weight training, because I do use fitness as one of the modalities to help people with their energy and healing. Want to jump right into a full circuit. And I'm like, when's the last time you worked out? Never. I'm like, nope. We're going to start with 3 moves and we're going to make sure that it's body weight and you have good form, because you can hurt yourself not even using weights if you're not if you're not trained properly. So yeah, I just think it's so important. And it really is, something else you said that I want to highlight for the community about elite athletes having multiple coaches. I have a community and I'm constantly bringing in other coaches, because at the end of the day, what I say may not land. You and me can talk about the very same things, but how I deliver that message may not be the way in which Bob interprets it so it makes sense to him. And that's why I do encourage people to get to know many people and to collaborate. And this is for coaches out there too. There isn't scarcity. You don't need to hold so tightly, because when you do let things flow, right, you're able to make more of an impact, really, genuinely. And you're in service of the highest good for everybody, meaning even if you're not the person who somebody needs, if I can match them to Drew or somebody else in my community that can help them make that progress forward, well, that's just benefiting the collective, because it's helping us all, experience more joy and connection and just higher levels of vibration.
Exactly. I love the word collaborate, because that's exactly where we are right now in, let's just say our state of energy, if you will, or our levels of consciousness. It's more about collaboration now than ever. And because there's so much going on, that it can get overwhelming, and people need options. People need, guidance, if you will, for lack of a better term. And the more we know about how other people do things, the better off we all are. And the more we collaborate together to bring things to the world and help each person is connected to the collective. So if we can get more people just taking little baby steps, we're adding to the collective higher level of consciousness.
Yep.
And that's just going to help everybody raise up. Just a smile. I mean, one of the things I like to tell people is, look, just try this. Just see what happens. Just do this consciously. Go out in the world and smile. And look at somebody and smile. Look at somebody and smile. Watch what happens.
Yep.
Guess what? Probably about 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a smile back.
Yep.
And that, in and of itself, that simple little thing is you having an influence on somebody else's happiness and joy.
Well, let's even take it a step further, right?
Fun. Yeah, let's do
Because
it.
our smile releases chemicals in our own body that cultivate joy. So if you're having a bad day, like
Smile.
if I'm in the gym, right, and I'm pushing weight, then when I remember, because I don't always, because I'm, in the middle of working out, but I will consciously smile and it makes the work easier, because even though I'm carrying the same load, even though I'm doing the same work, I'm releasing chemicals that makes it feel, okay, we got this, girl, no worries. Yeah.
Yeah, that book that I reference a lot called Stealing Fire, they talk a lot about exactly this. The neurochemicals that your body produces just doing things with your body. Like for example, one of them I remember is just standing in front of a mirror in a Wonder Woman pose with a
Yeah.
smile on your face for 2 minutes changes your chemical structure
Yeah.
to producing more of the pleasure producing, performance enhancing neurochemicals than you could possibly even imagine. Just standing in front of a mirror with a smile on your face in a Wonder Woman pose.
Yep.
So there's so many things we can do. It's just you got to think about them, right? You got to be
Yeah.
aware of them, and then you just got to think about them.
And
So
you have to do them though, because here's the funny thing. Like I've lately been on this thing where I love to give 30-second hugs, right? At least 30-second hugs, because the energy and the connection that
oh
releases.
yeah,
Whoo! Do
yeah,
you know how many people resist that? And I'm not gonna I'm not gonna
oh
hold
yeah,
on to something, but I just watch, because I'll walk up and hold until somebody releases. I'm not gonna be the one to let go. And I just watch, and I'm talking like the bulk of people, even people doing our work, you go to give them a hug and they're like, "Meh, guard up at 5 seconds. Something's going on here."
yeah, yeah. You're right. It's actually another thing that I absolutely love about doing what I do down driving this thing around campus. I've got a whole crew of people that I can get hugs from for endless. Like they're just like, we just love you and I love you, and it's just hugs. It's
Yeah.
a night full of hugs with specific groups of people, which expands. But yeah, I mean you're absolutely right, and you can tell who wants one,
Yeah.
and you can tell who doesn't.
Yep. And so it's so fascinating for me, because I grew up in a family that did not show physical affection.
Mm-hmm.
So even it took me leaning into discomfort, and I think this is an important point that we should touch upon, is as you are raising your vibration, sometimes you have to move through discomfort. You have to push past old patterns of behavior and beliefs to be able to experience those higher vibrations. And I think that sometimes people like, this feels weird, so I'm not going to do it. But like what you could experience once you move out of that, like, conscious choice to do it differently is just so profound, right? I even the other day, Occam said, "I love you," and I loved it, but that my natural instinct was like, "Dude, I just met you. Like, who are you to tell?" Right? And but
Yeah,
that's like, "Ooh, that's just conditioning." Okay, I received that. So it's giving yourself permission to be like, "Okay, this feels weird." Little weird. Carrie's hugging me for 30 seconds. Super weird. But I'm gonna allow myself to experience it, because maybe what I get from that is growth, it's connection, and ultimately you're operating from love, which is a higher vibration than fear.
yeah. And you know what's funny? Um, this past week, for my first time ever, I had never met this guy before. His name's Christian. He's a wrestler. Uh, Judging from his size, he probably wrestles around 140, so he's not a big guy. But boy, he saw the trailer, and we started talking about energy and vibrational frequencies and emotion and blah 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 blah. We just had a really fun conversation. It was, after the bars had closed. We weren't busy. We were just hanging out at a place called Joe's, and we had this really cool conversation. And when it was all done, he just he initiated. He just, man, I love the fact that I met you today. He just gave me this big hug, and I'm like, dude, right on. I'm sure most of the students are going, what are those guys doing? But and I saw him again the next night. First thing he did was come up and give me a big hug.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so cool.
Yep. And so I guess I always tell people, when you filter yourself, you limit yourself. And so if you have an instinct to lean in, because just like you, I mean, the connections I make, even with Jason, this guy, I put out something on Facebook I needed help with. I never met this man a day in my life. He popped in my messenger, me being me. I'm like, oh, let's go have lunch. We had lunch, a beautiful connection. If I didn't start to learn to suspend my distrust, right, because of my past, I had a lot of distrust of people. I was always assuming that people were in it to get something for themselves and didn't have my best interest in mind. Once I let that go and said, you know what, that's not something I want to experience anymore, it doesn't serve me, what opens up is just absolutely growth, for sure, right? Growing, but the people you meet and how much you actually are able to recognize what a loving world this is.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Plus, there are also other benefits. Things can pop up that break what you think should not necessarily be considered a positive thing happening to you, where something will show up and you just go, oh my God, life is not supposed to be this serious. I'll give you an example. So Friday night, welcome week, driving around downtown, we're slammed. I mean, flying all over the place. And I'm giving a ride to a group of hockey player people I know. And my chain breaks. And it's, I don't know, 12:30 at night, prime time. Like, this is prime time for us. My chain breaks. Now, definitely that could be considered not such a fun thing, right? I mean, like, this is when I'm making money and my chain breaks. I'm out of business. So a little while, I just kept my energy high. There's only one person on the team, the owner, that can fix that chain, and I have to wait for him, right? So it's like, okay, well, I'll play some music and I'll just enjoy, and I'll talk to people as they're walking by. One of the other drivers pulls up, and he has 3 of the cheerleaders in his cab, and they pull up and they're like, what's up? I said, oh, I broke my chain. They're, oh no, what can we do? Because we know these people. So we give them rides all the time. So we're just sitting there talking, and they go, hey, let's show them our new routine. Now, we knew they had worked on this routine. They had to pass a test and all this stuff. So they're like, we haven't had a chance to show you this. Let's show you our new routine. So they put on the music and they're showing us their new routine. And the other driver who was there got up on a bench behind him and was just, doing this. It was the funniest thing ever. It was absolutely hilarious. All of us we just broke down laughing. And it was like, yeah, okay, no big deal. 30 minutes out of my life to have that happen. That's amazing.
Right? And you wouldn't have had it otherwise.
It wouldn't have happened.
That's, Nana went to Anime New NYC, and he dresses up as different cosplay characters and stuff. And because he, like you, he just goes with the flow. He happened to run into this girl who plays saxophone. She's, I guess, an influencer doing whatever. And he, just being humble, oh my God, I love your content, ends up in a video of these two. And it's wild. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. And it is so funny. And it's just being open to, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to go with the flow. I don't go to Anime NYC. Nana goes by himself and just is open to what experience he has. And when you can cultivate that perspective, when you can just say, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I trust that it's going to be good. It will be good. And I'm going to give you a story on the contrary, though. I had somebody tell me the other day that they have this immense fear of walking the wrong way on the side of the street because they think they're going to get hit. Well, guess what happens? You get hit by a car because you're creating that fear. Instead, I walk on a very, very, very busy route that everybody's like, oh my God. I always know I'm good. I don't even think about it twice. And I've had people go, "Meep," but instead of being like, oh my God, I'm like, thank you so much for looking out for me. Appreciate you, because I'm good. Like, there's no point in getting bent that somebody went speeding by. Instead, choose to be like, hey, thanks, I'm good. Let's keep it moving. And when you sit in trust rather than fear, you experience more moments that prove to you that you can trust in whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, that's right. The more you experience it, the more you are tuned to it, right? You just expect it. It's like, of course that's going to happen, or of course that happened, right? Like when that was the biggest laugh I think the five of us have ever had together, and we've had lots of laughs together. That's just like, of course that happened.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get upset about it. I was playful with it. In fact, the owner, Kevin, said, I'll be there in 15 minutes, and 25 minutes later, he's not here. So I didn't go, hey, where are you? I just texted him, hey, brother, you forget about me? With a big smiley face. It was right after I sent that text that those guys showed up.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, and that's the thing is just, yeah, it's so beautiful. And that's why we do this. And even like full transparency, we jumped on this call and both of us were like frustrated a little bit with the technology and figuring out how things, but I mean, 30 minutes in, I'm ready to like take on the day. I'm like, okay, let's go. What else can we do? What else we got going on? Right. Because that is the power of just being in the moment, but not letting it take over, and then going with the flow and having that connection. Something else you said that I think is super important for anybody who works with other people in service of them. This is important too. Laughter, for me, I truly believe from my own thing, is so necessary as part of this journey, as a healing journey, as a growth journey. Because to your point, so often we get caught up in this idea that everything needs to be so serious, even healing, even going through addiction. And it can't be. It feels too heavy. You won't stay the course if you can't, find the humor in it. And I'll never forget, I was working with this woman in marketing. She was supposed to be helping me rebrand. And I had told her a story of something that I had shared with a client, which again, being in the moment, it was hilarious. And she reprimanded me. That's totally inappropriate. And blah. I'm like, first off, you don't work with this client. But second of all, I'm going to tell you right now, I've had more breakthroughs with my clients through humor and lightening up the situation after going into something very deep and releasing than I have just sitting there in the of navigating what it is you're trying to unpack and move through.
Yeah, you're right. I love laughter.
Yes.
Most people can tell. Yeah, I mean, it's so, and it's contagious too, by the way.
And think about it, like, I mean, my intention in the morning is to laugh well. That is one of my non-negotiables. When I wrote out what my ideal partner would be before I met Nana, top of the list, has to be able to make me laugh. Has to. Yeah. Because one, I'm a deep thinker. You and me can nerd out, right, on physical, on body stuff, nutrition, all that. So I need somebody to be like, come back to the fact that this is all supposed to be fun, Kerry.
Yeah, right. That's one thing that most people don't realize, for the most part, is it is supposed to be fun. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here to sift, to sort, and have fun.
Yep.
And it's like Wayne Dyer's, quote that I love is, you don't dance to reach a specific point on the floor. You dance for the joy of it, right? And so it's the same thing here.
I've never heard that quote.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and I love him. I've read his work extensively anyway. I was just like taking that in.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it sums it up so well. I'm not trying to get to some point on the floor. I'm supposed to enjoy the process,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
And so that's the same thing with life. We're not trying to get to a specific point. We're just trying. We should be enjoying the process. The point will show up. That's if you just allow it.
Yes.
The universe knows everything you want.
Well, that highlights something I was telling a client earlier, right? Yesterday, I'm at the gym, I'm doing my workout, and it occurs to me, I'm like, oh, I didn't put out my bi-weekly newsletter on Monday, right? Now, most people, because they're like, oh my God, I got it. But I didn't. I was like, well, when I got home, I popped on, I shared a story, jumped in, did it. So often we're like, I got to figure out what I need to do. And we create this resistance by overthinking it. We're like, oh, I got to figure out what my ideal client is. I got to figure out how I'm going to get these clients. No, you don't. And I just said to somebody earlier today, what you need to do is stay in joy and figure out what works for you to stay in joy. Because at the end of the day, Drew, you and I both, we are our business. And what I mean by that is we live what we teach. We are the sum total of what we believe in because we live it, we breathe it, we practice it. That's all I worry about is, am I staying true to what I know? Because if I am, the rest will present itself because the universe knows what I want.
Yeah, you just have to get out of the way. What most people do is bring in so much resistance with their
Oh,
thoughts that
yeah.
they just, and a lot of that resistance is just that. It needs to unfold like this. No, because it's not going to.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
going to do this, and it's going to do this.
Yep.
It's going to do this.
And that's even belief systems. Like for the longest time, right, my belief was my mother needs to be this nurturing, super supportive, always there for me person. And when I let that go, oh my God, the Gail Crafts in the world came in, my aunts came in. I just had a aunt come from Dubai. She watches our show, she loves our stuff, to like, just so you get what you want. It just isn't going to always look the way you think it should. And that's why I truly believe, having studied theology the way I have, that the last judgment isn't somebody coming down to pick us off. The last judgment is the last time we judge anything, meaning we think we know how it should be, what's right or wrong, what's good or bad, rather than just letting it be what it is and taking in the gift from the experience rather than saying it needs to be something
Right,
more than
exactly.
what it is.
Exactly. I break a chain during a busy time. 3 cheerleaders show up and we laugh our ass off.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that.
And as we begin to wrap up, the one thing I want to circle back to that I think is important is you were talking about your students coming back and you give them an experience, right? So because they're in this space of higher energy, they're absorbing, they're taking that on. Well, the same is true for low energy guys. And, it's why I hang out with the Drews of the world. It's why I have Nana for partner. It's why I'm very strategic about who I spend my time with. Because at the end of the day, you are absorbing the energy in which you most often are existing in. And if, everybody around you is an Eeyore, oh, well, I had an okay. That is going to be the energy that you're taking in. And so, my parting advice to you before I default to Drew is really start to look at what it is you're allowing yourself to be around consistently, and can you shift a little bit to feel or be around more joy, around more positivity, around more support rather than people tearing you down.
Yeah, and so to go on top of that, the more you know how to get out in front of that, the more you're just going to naturally attract people that operate at higher levels.
Yes.
And don't be surprised when you start moving up and operating more consistently at higher levels. Either people will go with you or they'll go away.
Yes.
So don't be surprised if some of those people that aren't willing to come with you aren't around you much anymore. And it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Now, maybe, hopefully, at some point, they'll, say, hey, I want to come with you, but that's not your job. Okay. So you can't worry about what other people think. You can't worry about how other people operate. All you can worry about is all you can focus on, is a better word, is how you operate.
Yeah.
And then watch what happens around you, because it does shift.
It will. And then, like, even I'm gonna tell you right now, my youngest daughter just went off to her first day of 10th grade, and how she showed up today for her first day of school versus how she showed up 3 years ago, night and day difference. And again, because I'm doing the work, she sees mom doing the work, she starts to implement small changes, not anything that mom does, because mom's like intense and she's 15 years old, but even just me being in that space, you see a difference. And so, yeah, I totally agree. Don't be afraid to shed people, because even if you shed them temporarily, it doesn't mean they're gone forever. It just means that right now you're moving up, and you're planting seeds by moving up, by doing the work yourself. They may not believe that it's possible, but as you keep rising and they love you, they're like, well, maybe if she did it and I saw her down here, I can do it too.
Yeah, I think that's true for the collective, by the way.
Yeah.
So the more people that we have operating at those levels, the ones that are working on themselves and operating at more optimal levels, let's just use that term, then the more other people are going to see that aren't operating there. And there's going to be more and more opportunities for those people to go, hey, I want to come with you. And I think that's where our shift is going to happen. It's just going to, because we don't need a large percentage of people that understand all this to
I think it's
tip the
2/3.
scales.
Yeah. Well,
I don't even think it's 2/3. I think it's like 20%.
Yeah.
Because
Energy.
so many people, it's all energy. Everything's energy. People, the other 80% are going to go, what the hell you guys got going on over here? Why are you so happy all the time?
Yeah.
Well, let me show you, because I'm not. So how can I be happy all the time, or happy all the time? How can I thrive more often? And so, I don't even think it's 20%. I mean, I think the momentum starts probably around the same time as law of attraction, which is 15 seconds. Let's use 15% of the people. And I mean, that will build momentum that
and that's
we won't be
happening.
able to stop.
I mean, I see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just talked to an owner of a mortgage company, and he's talking about Hawkins scale of consciousness and how he works with his employees. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, okay.
I mean, 10 or 15 years ago, you and I would not have been having this conversation, most likely, on social media.
Yeah.
We may have been having the conversation in a living room, but probably not likely we were having it on social media and having people watch it. So that's just an indicator of where the energy is going, and it's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, which leads to more fun. So there we go.
With that, guys, it is a gift and an honor. And Drew, I got so much love for you. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to Drew, Mac, or myself. We'll be happy to connect with you, have good conversation. Please, if you liked this, please share it. And we'll be back next week for another episode.